do you think that as black men, black boys, black men, whichever way we want to look at it, do you think that we are conditioned, to use the term that that we were talking about with Rain, conditioned to deal with stress and wear it more, as in get ourselves through it and not voice about it? Because those numbers are quite concerning. If they're not talking about it.
It's a badge. It's a badge.
Do you know what it is?
What, a badge of honor?
No. It's a badge.
I'll tell you what it is, and it's probably privilege to our conversation that we're having now, and we call it under the name of our group, like MT Podcast, it's a man talk, right? We don't talk. And not a lot of people feel to themselves that they can openly say what's going on in their mind. Like, I'm sitting in a room with you guys, and some of my closest brothers in the room, and not everybody in the room knows the stress that I'm going under. Mm-hmm. I can sit there and say, you said, oh yeah, you was going through some stress or whatever else. Not, I don't know all the stresses you're going under. Why is that? Is that because you don't talk, or is that because I don't talk? Is that because Rain's not talking? Is that because Citrus not talking? It's
or just we don't talk, innit?
We don't talk like that. I don't want to. I will tell you the happy parts of my day. I'll tell you a couple of the funny
jovial
bits,
parts.
the jovial parts in my day, and say, oh yeah, that happened. But am I going to tell you the part where I'm really hurt right now and I'm broken right now? And and am I going to expose that to my man them, or for you to turn and say, right, is he really crying? Like, is he really upset?
Bro, like to be honest, have you cried in 2024? Well,
yeah, I have.
Rain? No, buddy?
Yeah, I have.
I have.
I think. Yeah. I don't know.
I've cried in 2024. 2024 is 2 months and 7 days old. I don't know.
I ain't cried.
Yeah, I can say no.
I have.
Yeah.
Did you cry in 2023?
Yep.
Yes.
Did you, Rain?
No. Rain don't cry.
No, it's not. Rain just rains.
Look, someone might say different. I think no. The last time I probably cried was probably 4 years ago when my dad got ill. Before that, it was when my mum got ill, and then before that was when my son was born.
Do you think that's because of how you're conditioned to deal with stress, that you don't allow the stress to manifest and come out?
To get to that point, yeah.
I don't know. Because it.
Good point.
The situations I don't believe were stressful. I believe the situations were emotional.
So does that mean you don't cry?
But isn't emotional
tied because I have
stress?
cried.
I was about to say.
So can I ask another quick question? And this one's more directed at you, Wiley. All right, and you'll understand straight away. But at funerals, do you cry?
I cry all the time.
I don't.
But you know the funny thing? I don't cry. I will cry not necessarily because of the person that is passing, but because
the people that are
I can empathise with them about what they're going through, and then I start to put myself, how am I going to deal with that scenario? Unfortunately, I've got to go to a funeral in a couple of weeks' time with one of my uncles. And the mad thing about it is that I wouldn't have expected that I would, how can I put it? You know, you get to a certain age, you think you confirm it. You confirm it. I've been to a funeral already this year and I was crying. So going to a funeral again now, I'm already dreading how I'm going to feel. And I'm quite an emotional person with things like that. But I will firm it. For those that are going through stuff, I will firm it. But for me...
It's funny you said that. I remember my granddad's funeral, right? And I was in the thing. I was cool all the way up to it. And then, I don't know what happened. I was sitting there and I started crying. And I remember my aunt touching my shoulder and I'm like, stop crying. I actually said out loud, I said, stop crying. Why am I crying?
You said it to yourself out loud?
Out loud. I was like, why am I crying? I'm wiping the tears. I'm stop crying. Like, and she's like, oh, dear. And I'm like, no, I'm trying my best not to bar. Like, why am I crying? Why am I emotional about this? Like, I've tried to come to an understanding, especially when it comes to death, because I don't like death. Do you know what I mean? And I always sit there and say to myself, well, look, you know what? At the end of the day, my granddad was old. You know what I mean? My grandma got old. You know what I mean? When they get to a certain age, I'm like, right, you had a good innings. You know what I mean? You've lived to a ripe age, and now you're at the point where you're not coming to the MT podcast chilling and having a drink. You're now sitting there like someone's pushing you around, and you're not even washing yourself. Someone's got to come down and wash you. Realistically, you're at the end, innit? And it's probably better for you to be out than in now.
Jeez.
And that was the mentality.
It's harsh, bro.
It's harsh, but it gets to the point where if you're not living life, then and you're just sitting there just watching the days go by.
You're existing.
You're existing.
It's your it's your way of coping with what is happening rather than taking.
Yeah, so I got to a point where I'm saying, I understand that, and now you're probably in a better place, and this is better for you. I'm being selfish now by crying and saying, I wish you were still here suffering. Why do I want you to be here still suffering? You know what I mean?
That's a mad viewpoint, and I get it.
And that's why I said to myself, stop. You know that this is better for him, so why are you going to be upset about it?
But then there's other things. Remember, your subconscious brain controls your conscious brain, and obviously subconscious because you don't know. So you could have been crying for a myriad of things, studios, but it might have been you didn't spend enough time with that person and you thought you should have, or it was that person was so impactful in my life. Regardless of the state that they were in, they're now gone. Who would I go to? Because we were sitting here talking a little while ago about we've got man talk and the man them don't talk. But what's to say that some of the man them don't have other people that they talk to? It doesn't necessarily have to be a man. It doesn't have to be a bedroom. It could be your sister. It could be your son. You know what I mean? It could be anyone.
This is true.
I think, and I think I mentioned this on one of the podcasts that we used to do in the old place. That I have a podcast, but it's just one that I just talk into for about 12 minutes. If something's going wrong, I just talk into it. People listen. They have no idea who I am. I do not share it. But
so we don't even know about it.
No, but that's your point.
Therapy.
Exactly. That's the point. Deepest, darkest secrets on there. Like no one will know that. Like I'm sat on this podcast. The reason why I'm on this podcast is that I think there's a part of me that thinks I need to be immortalized. When I say immortalized, when I die,
this podcast is still here.
It's still here. Yeah. There is still a memory of me here. My son will then find this and think, "Raw, I can listen to what my dad's thinking about different things."
Thinking you was here for us. Well, you know what I mean? So I can be immortal. So selfish.
So this is stress. This is an example of how your brethren introduces stress to your life. When you thought you were friends and realised he's using this as some kind of morbid archive
or for his son. It's not even morbid because I'm doing this archive for you lot as well. Because I'm going to be dying. No, because when you pass away, your people in your family will sit down raw. These were people that he classed as friends and sat down and had very
classed as friends
and had very deep conversations about. You know what I mean? It's how you and this comes back to stress, innit? It's how you look at the situation you're in. Because you look, hopefully, jokes aside, you're saying that, but realistically, from a non-morbid point of view, it's like, right, okay, that's a different. Like Wiley was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, isn't it? Yeah, you immortalize. That's why you. Why do you think people do Instagram?
Do you know the funny thing? When Rain's saying about immortalized, not that I want to be immortalized, but you know, sometimes when I go to funerals, I think, when I pass away, how am I going to be viewed? So I want my life to be. Maybe this is why I do 10 million different things. Maybe. Because I want my life to have a meaning and a purpose that when I'm gone,
impact.
Yeah, impactful. So when I'm gone, people will say, you know what, this guy was this, he created this, he was working for us, he supported this, whatever it is that I've put out in the world, I want the world to miss me when I'm gone. So I've left a mark on the world.
Okay.
And there's the thing of overworking. This is what we as black men tend to do. Not all of us, but a lot. I think I could safely say in this group and in some of us in eMpTy, we overwork. What are we overworking for? And I think that
what are you aiming to achieve?
Yeah, like you get to a point where you do so much, but then you sacrifice the time. And because you sacrifice the time, you believe the work you put in is the compensation for the time. So where you can't go to Sweden, Wiley, because you're doing whatever. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're working, right?